365 Sports. This segment on Baylor Athletics brought to you by Richard Carr Motors. Yesterday, the Sean Bell, the quarterback's coach, and the two quarterbacks had media availability. We'll just start right off the bat. Craig was there. This is Sean Bell on what it's been like so far with Sawyer Robertson and the incumbent starter, Blake Shapen.
Well, I think it all starts with a fit, right? I think as you're looking to bring somebody in, it's not all about, how many yards they threw for, how many, wins they had. It's really a fit for the program. And I think Sawyer matched that. You saw the potential. You may not have had the opportunities that other people had and had the reps that other people had, but you see it from his high school film. And obviously as a coach, you're calling people that know him through high school and then at the college level and see how his development's been. And you're doing all the investigating you need. And I think that, through that, we found the right guy for this program, and I think it starts there.
Well, that was about Sawyer Robertson. Sorry, introed that the wrong way. Yeah, he's not going to have a bunch of stats, Craig, but it is interesting the position that Sawyer Robertson is in now, and a lot of quarterbacks around the country. We'll talk about Ole Miss later in the show, but there's situations now where we had the two-time transfer rules kind of amended and shown to us yesterday. He would be a two-time transfer, so he's kind of here, right? And this is not going to be decided in spring. So it had to be a fit because, for him, he's got to be here. And for Baylor, they got to make it work with these two guys because there's not experience on the roster after him.
Yeah, I mean, it's a key decision by both parties for sure. I mean, if he turns out to be the wrong kind of fit, then they're pretty much up, creek without a paddle because there's only so many other options still out there. And to get him when they did was not miraculous by any means, but it was pretty clutch and could have worked out far worse if they had whiffed on him and then had to go scouring elsewhere just for simply some depth. But to land a guy who could very well be your starter is a pretty big deal, and a nice recovery from that signing day fiasco with the recruit who shall not be named, who headed to Oregon with his morning decision and really left him in a lurch. I mean, after hardcore recruiting him for a year, more than that actually, and thinking you had him locked down, to then the morning of, find out that, oh, never mind, I'm changing my mind. I mean, that really screwed them over, man, and didn't have to be that way. I mean, it could have easily have occurred like a couple weeks before or a couple months before or whatever, but, I mean, they were screwed, and then to recover the way that they did and land a Sawyer Robertson, obviously the passing of Mike Leach played into this somewhat. I don't know, how that would have worked out if, there had been a better, piece of news as far as that goes. Like, he had a health issue, but he's perfectly fine, right? And, Sawyer Robertson clearly loved and respected Mike Leach, and that's why he went to Mississippi State. But that happened, and I think that kind of slid open the door a bit, and, Baylor was ultimately the benefactor from that, but somebody was going to benefit from him. And so, yeah, they went and did their due diligence best they could, which is, looking at tape and just seeing if it works. And look, he didn't play in the offense that they run. He played in an air raid. He played in an air raid in high school. He played in an air raid in college, obviously, and played very little. I mean, ultimately, compared to Blake Shapen, who just started an entire year, there's not really an experience comparison there. But, big arm, nice size, great personality, learning, quickly and doing all the things that you're supposed to do. It seems like he is the right fit, and that they did their homework, and their homework, benefited them greatly the way it appears right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I'm curious to see how it is. And I do think that skill set wise, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, I think, while you were at practice, Craig, with Kyron Drones, and I know they'll probably kick themselves a little bit, or when they look back, of not having a package for him so that he was maybe more ready when they needed to get times where maybe Shapen could come out of the game and just calm him down a little bit. Mm-hmm. But he and Drones and Shapen were so different. I think that was maybe one of the things they didn't want to take that leap with an offense that didn't have a lot of playmakers, especially in the passing game, around to help out,
Yeah.
And I think with Sawyer Robertson, I don't think you're going to have to change things all that much, should Shapen go out, or whatever happens will happen. You'll be able to kind of roll right on through.
Well, it's not like they're running the option and they have to have him, be able to do that because that's what Shapen does. And that, yeah, I mean, it's different than what he was doing, but it's nothing too much of a hill to climb, and too much of a learning curve. So that was part of the learning process. Was they realized, hey, this guy's played in the air raid for the last several years. How does that translate to the RVO, as Jeff Grimes refers to it, the reliable violent offense? How does that compare to wide zone schemes and a lot of things that they do here versus what they were doing at Mississippi State? I mean, they had to go through that, and I think that he's clearly pretty adaptable, and they're working through probably any of the kinks right now as practices roll along. And yeah, I don't worry too much about him adapting in that way. And that was part of finding the right fit, and he checked a lot of boxes. He's from Texas. He's got a big arm. He's super athletic. He's a good learner. He works hard. All the things that you want to hear, all the intangibles. But yeah, his adaptability, that was something they clearly looked into and felt good about, and so far so good. So yeah, there's not a real concern about that there being a giant learning curve, like I said.
Well, and speaking of that learning curve, here's what Sawyer Robertson has to say about it.
It's not necessarily something you try to, like, you can't come, it's you gotta kind of roll with the punches and just be yourself. It's not I'm going to do this on this day, I'm going to do this the next day. So that it's just, you just got to be yourself. And, I just enjoy spending time with my teammates. So, yeah.
So that's what he is. He's learning the offense, rolling with it. I mean, he's not, again, you can't reinvent the wheel. You just got to go with it. And, I do think that this offense makes it a little bit, if it's run right, it makes it a lot easier on quarterbacks because you are relying, you're not having to throw the ball 50 times. They want you to throw the ball, 30 times, and probably 10 of those would be in a really close game at the end of the game, right? And they want 25 throws in the game. They want more of a ball control, power running, wide zone offense. So that makes it a little easier on quarterbacks, I think, than the spread. I think where the spread makes it easier is you don't have a lot of complex concepts out there, but you still have to be, if you're not hitting your spots in any given day, you're going to struggle. The other thing, the problem with the Mike Leach offense, the air raid offense is that it doesn't travel particularly great, in that if it is cold and rainy or cold and wet, like, you're kind of at the mercy of what's going on. And running offenses like the wide zone maybe do a little bit. So I think there are pros and cons to each one, but I think for Sawyer Robertson's case, I think it would make it, especially if he's forced into duty early on, it's probably a little bit less stress on the quarterback if it's going well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what it's like from his viewpoint other than what he throws out there like yesterday. And that comment in particular, I think that was sort of all-encompassing about, just fitting in and making the change and the transition itself. You don't go out there and just try super hard to be a leader. I think that's actually what it was mostly about, was leadership. Like, he's not out there going like, hey, guys, I'm ready to lead. And no, you just go out there and you lead by example, and you do your thing, but you do it to the best of your abilities, and you hope that others follow suit. And that's what he's doing. He's not trying to be someone that he's not, or trying to be super gung-ho when he's really not, or try to grab the reins. He's just going to work and doing his best, and, that'll all add up and make for, hopefully a more competitive team, and a team that really pushes each other, the whole iron sharpens iron thing. And I think he's bought in and invested into that. I don't think he's sitting there expecting a starting job right away, and I don't think that he's content either with being the backup, but that's good. That's good that, he understands, like, this is not automatically mine, and if I don't get it, that just means the guy beat me out, but I'm going to do my best to perform as well as I possibly can and earn this thing. And so whoever emerges from this, the good news is you will know that they earned it. Straight up, 100%. This isn't, this guy's older, this guy's played more, this or that. This is straight up competition, and there's nothing guaranteed. So whoever is the best at the end of the day, whenever they decide to make that decision, I think fans can rest assured that if Sawyer Robertson's named the starter, then he came in and obviously made the transition very easily, or, made it pretty seamlessly, but he earned it outright as well. And I think there's a real chance of that. I think, Shapen's going to have something to say about it. But, it's only been a couple practices, so we've got a ways to go here. But I like what I've seen so far.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and then finally, Blake Shapen on what he did wrong last year.
I should have been a little bit more vocal than I probably was. And so now I've taken, trying to take that step forward to be a more vocal leader and to just inspire everyone around me too, to come out every single day with my head up, going as hard as I can, and hopefully get some people to fall in line with that. And so, I'm working on being a better leader and just inspiring others around me.
What's different in how you go through spring ball after having been the guy for a year versus taking over in game 11?
Say that again.
What's different in how you go through spring ball this year, having been the guy last season versus last spring, not coming in as the guy until game 11?
I'd say probably more experience. Like, I had a full season under my belt last year, and I had, 3 games of experience, or a little bit more than that, but a couple of them are mop up. But I'd say experience. I mean, I had a full year last year. I knew what a full season was like, and I went through that, so I'd probably say experience.
I'll say what I said again yesterday. For any fans that wonder about a player's ability to lead a team, and not everybody's the same, but there are good tales out there of people who were a disaster. And I mean, disaster is a strong word, but had disastrous moments and then rebounded. One of them, I'll tell you, Craig, is Max Duggan. So I think if Baylor can get at least, I don't expect them to go and haul off and be in the national championship game, but if they can get that kind of, mental adjustment that Max Duggan made from one year to the next with Blake Shapen, that would be huge, because it's possible. I mean, sometimes it's just about, like he said, the experience. There are a lot of things out there he never had to deal with and didn't really approach them the right way, but now he's done it, and it's not like he was a senior. I mean, he's got plenty of eligibility left to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, taking a team to the national championship games, a pretty significant bounce back that was entirely unexpected by even the TCU faithful. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty big shoes to fill. But yeah, he can be in that same vein, a guy that takes a huge jump. I mean, he took a slight step back, if not a significant step back for some people last year. But based on what? Based on a couple games really at the end of the year that were huge wins in the program's history that he had something to do with, but that defense and a bunch of NFL guys also had a lot to do with. He drove the car well when Gary Bohannon got hurt, and then vice versa there at the end of the Sugar Bowl. That was just kind of a mess quarterback-wise. The defense really made a bunch of plays for them, but I mean, throughout that whole up-and-down kind of quarterback battle with both guys getting hurt at inopportune times, they managed it well. And then last year was just weird. Last year it just felt like, again, all right, in the spring, whoever loses is going to the transfer portal. That was automatic. And then the guy who actually sticks around as the backup, if he doesn't play a bunch upcoming, then he's probably going to go in the transfer portal. What happened? Gary Bohannon loses the competition. He jumps in the transfer portal. Kyron Drone's the backup. He plays sparingly last year. He jumps in the transfer portal. Your recruit ditches you on signing day morning, and here you are. And it's Blake Shapen, who's coming off of an type of year. And, yeah, you're really up, up S Creek, as I said a few moments ago, and you got Robertson. That was a big deal, but that doesn't mean just because you got a new guy that you're turning the page on Shapen by any means. This is still, a huge opportunity for him to grab the reins and keep the job, and I think based on yesterday, I've already seen a marked difference in just kind of his responses and how he approached the media session versus, maybe being a little uncomfortable or just not really feeling it previously, which I understand. Those things aren't necessarily the most natural deals in the world, but I noticed a difference in him. I think he feels the pressure in a good way. I think he understands that last year wasn't great and that he had a lot to do with that. And he's just older and more mature and understands now, like, hey, your opportunity's here right now, but it might not be here for much longer if you don't take care of your business. So he's focused and ready to rock, and they're pushing each other. So, again, I think that this is going to be a mutually beneficial quarterback competition.
Absolutely. When we come back,